Hi guys, my name is Charisma Lankster and I will be discussing the case revolving reporting and relationships. Hey guys, it's Charisma Lankster, and as I stated in the beginning, I will be discussing the case in regards to reporting and relationships. This case is about a woman named Jessica Luce. Jessica is a general assignment reporter for a newspaper called the Yakima Herald Reporter. She was a recent graduate and she lived in Sunnyside, Washington, which has a population of about 12,000. In the story, it stated since the population is so small, almost everyone is a source. Jessica had started dating Police Sergeant Phil Schneck. Jessica said that she was interested in him and that they had fun, but if asked about her relationship with Schneck, she said that they were just friends and nothing more. Her newspaper that she worked for, the Yakima Herald Reporter, had a code of ethics that was in length 4 pages long, in which they advised the staff to avoid conflicts of interest and to disclose those that are avoidable. Even though Jessica knew this, she still continued to keep her relationship hidden with Schneck. She said she had written stories about the police. She said even though she had written stories about the police before, she never used Schneck as a source. They started dating at the beginning of the year, and by the end of the year, towards New Year's Eve, she admitted that they were dating. She said that she did it because she didn't want to be received as wrong, and that she didn't want to interfere with her work. She said that she did not want it. She said that when they were together, they didn't discuss work like normal couples did when they're outside of their jobs. After a scandal involving the police chief they had, Schneck was appointed the position as the new police chief. And since he had this position, he became the media spokesperson for the police department. So because of this, since he's the spokesperson, that means that he would have to talk to the media. And, since Jessica was a journalist, a reporter, they would somehow probably have to interact. Craig, which was the editor for her newspaper, said that Jessica was straightforward, and by taking the ethical stand that she did, it made it easy for them to deal with it. Craig said that she never worried that her reporting would be compromised, but that Craig said that he never worried that her reporting would be compromised, but that he wanted the newspaper to not be under suspicion. He still wanted the readers to trust them. It's crazy because Schneck said that he thought that a conflict of interest wasn't realistic. When you lived in a small town as such as they did with a population of only 12,000, he said that everyone could be a source, even, the grocery store clerk. In this case, Jessica said that if she was to do it all over again, she said that she would not have hidden her relationship for as long as she did. Craig, the reporter, said that though he understands, the complexities of a journalistic's life, he wished that she would have told him sooner about what was going on. And once her and Schneck became public, she was actually surprised about the amount of support that she received from people, even like public officials and stuff like that. She said also, as well as the new police chief, because I guess Schneck wasn't the police chief anymore. She said that what we see as an ethical problem or a conflict of interest isn't going to be seen as one by the public. And so the questions that we have for this case are broken into 3 sections. You have micro issues, mid-range issues, and macro issues. So, talking about the macro issues. The first question that they ask is, did Luce have a responsibility to tell her editor about her relationship? If so, when should she have informed them? Since she had wrote stories about, the police department previously, I think that she should have told her editor in the beginning, even though, in the end that she did receive support from people and stuff like that, from her editor and even from, other public officials. I feel like she should have told them, because if something would have been wrong, if it went differently, she could have lost all her credibility as a journalist because of the conflicts of interest, because she could be writing a report, on the police department with Sheck, still being the police chief, and the story that she could be writing could be all positive, it could be a positive thing for the police department, and painting them in more of a positive light. So I think that she should have told them, and if she should have told them earlier in the beginning. That way, this whole situation could have been avoided. Because if she would have told them in the beginning, then then maybe the newspaper wouldn't have been about suspicion, and they wouldn't have to hide it. The next question is, what responsibility did the editors have to explain expectations on conflicts of interest? Should they have spelled it out? I think that they should, discuss with journalists about relationships, and I like the staff, about having relationships, especially involving like public figures or public officials, because if, like I said previously, if they would have discussed this whole situation could have been avoided. The next question is, how would the ethical questions have changed if Sheck worked in another capacity for the city, such as a teacher? I don't think it would have been an issue if he was a teacher. Mostly because I don't think it would be an issue if she was a teacher, because I think the case she was working on was involving the police station, and so I think a teacher, it wouldn't have been relevant, like it wouldn't have hurt her and stuff like that. But like I said, if she was, like if it was a public figure or something like that, someone that's in the public eye, and she's a reporter, and newspapers tend to, sometimes they report stories on public figures and public issues and stuff like that, then it would have been an issue, because that's a conflict of interest. If you have, a relationship with, maybe the governor who's in a scandal or something like that, then that would be bad. But I think a teacher would be okay. The fourth question is, how would the ethical questions have changed if Luce and Sheck had remained only friends? I think that I think there still would have been some questions, but I think there wouldn't have been as many, if they were just friends. Of course they're more, because they're more in an interim relationship, but I think if they were just friends, I think there probably been a little suspicion that maybe, Sheck was giving Jessica information about the police department and stuff like that, and what was going on. But I don't think it would have been as bad as they remained friends. I think it wouldn't have been as bad. There wouldn't have been as many ethical questions being raised. Okay. The second section is the mid-reign issues. And so the first question is, what aspects of their lives should journalists be able to keep private? I do think that, since they do report on other people's lives, that they should be able to keep their own private lives private. I believe everyone deserves to have their own privacy, even journalists, even reporters. But I do think that Jessica should have made her relationship with Sheck public, especially to her. She should have told her editor, since that there would be suspicion that he could have been a possible source, since he worked for the police department. The second question is public perception an ethical problem truly relevant? I think in this instance, it is relevant, because since they are the newspaper, and so they write to the public, to their readers. So I think as a newspaper, you want to make sure that you remain in a positive light, because you don't want it to get out that your reporter is, has a conflict of interest with the source that they're reporting on. It could get out, and then as a newspaper, you could lose all credibility as a whole. The other question is, journalists spend most of their time with groups, their sources, and their coworkers. Considering those limitations, is dating possible or even advisable? I think that dating is definitely possible. It applies to any person in any job, not just in reporting. I think it all boils down to whether the people are able to separate work outside of the workplace. And if they're able to still, if they're able to just keep work at work, and if they are at work, to always just remain professional as possible and not bring your personal problems to your workplace if you guys, are dating outside of work. I think it's definitely possible. The last question is, recently NBC Dateline correspondent Maria Shriver took an absence leave as her husband Arnold Schwarzenegger, who ran a successful race as governor. As she returns to her duties, what limitations, if any, should be imposed on her reporting? I think to show that she is not biased, that NBC should not have her doing stories involving government in regards to California, because it is a conflict of interest, since he is married to the governor. And because of this, I think that they should just, pull her from anything involving that and just have her report on other stories. And the last section is macro issues. The first question is, can journalists cover communities effectively if they are expected to remain remote or removed? I don't think that a journalist can cover a community if they aren't familiar with it. I think you need to be able to know what's going on. You need to be, aware of what the people want to know. And I also think that you should also know the values of that community. The last question is, how specific should code of ethics be in conflicts of interest? I think that they should be very specific with journalists to let them know what is acceptable and what is not. I think it should be broken down to the point where there won't be any questions asked, that it will be stated in the code of ethics, that they won't have any questions, that all their answers would be right there. And if they were very specific and such like that, this whole case wouldn't have happened. There wouldn't have, been any suspicions regarding the journalist and the source, and, possibly the credibility of the newspaper. I think that all of this could have been avoided if in the newspaper's code of ethics, if they were specific and they broke it down, and they specified what is ethical and what is not. Thank you for listening. Bye.